Okay, we're going to continue reading the reading on the book called The Life of David through his Psalms by Alexander Maclaren. We are now in the fourth chapter, titled as Exile. David's first years and the court of Saul in Gibeath, that is Saul's hometown. Okay, so do not appear to have produced any songs which still survive. The sweetest songs are those which tell of Sanders' thoughts. It was natural then that appeared full of novelty and a prosperous activity, were unlike the quiet days and Bethlehem, should rather accumulate materials for future use and be fruitful in actual production. The old life shut behind him forever, like some enchanted door in the hillside, and an unexplored land lay beckoning before. The new was widening his experience, but it had to be mastered, to be assimilated by meditation before it became vocal. The bare facts of this section are familiar and soon told. There is a first period in which he is trusted by Saul, who sets him in high command with the approbation not only of the people but even of the official classes. But a new dynasty rests on military preeminence, cannot afford to let a successful soldier stand on the step of the throne. And the thrill chant of the women of all the city of Israel, which even in Saul's hearing answered the praises of his prowess with a louder acclaim for David's victories, startled the king for the first time with a revelation of the national feeling. His unslumbering suspicion eyed David from that day. Rage and terror threw him again into the grip of his evil spirit. In his paroxysm, he flings his heavy spear, the symbol of his royalty, and lit the harper with the fierce walls of murder. The failure of his attempt to kill David seemed to have aggregated dread of him as bearing a charm which won all hearts and averted all dangers. The second stage is marked not only by Saul's growing fear, but by David's new position. He is removed from court and put in a subordinate command, which only extends his popularity and brings him into more immediate contact with the mass of the people. All Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them. Then followed the offer of Saul's elder daughter in marriage, in the hope that by playing upon his gratitude and his religious feeling, he might be urged to some piece of rash bravery that would end him with a scandal. Some new caprice of Saul's, however, leads him to insult David by breaking his pledge at the last moment, and giving the praised bride to another. Excuse me. Jonathan's heart was not the only one in Saul's household that yielded to his spell. The young Michelle had been cherishing his image in secret, now tells her love. Her father returned to his original purpose with a strange mixture of tenacity and capricious changefulness that marked his character. And again, attempts by demanding a grossly savage jewelry to secure David's destruction, but then the skin too fills, and he becomes a member of the royal house. I'll cough a little bit. Okay, so. The third stage is marked by Saul's deepening panic hatred, which has now become a fixed idea. All his attempts have only strengthened David's position, and he look on his irresistible advance with a nameless awe. He calls with a man's folly on Jonathan and on all his servants to kill him. And then, when his son appeals to him, his old better nature comes over him. And with a great oath he vows that David shall not be slain. For in a short time David returned to Gibeon, and resumed his former relations with Saul. But a new victory over the Philistines arose, the slumber jealousy. Again, the evil spirit is upon him, and the great javelin is flung with blind fury and strikes quivering in the wall. It's night, and David flies to his horse. A stealthy band of assassins from the palace surrounded the house with order to prevent all egress. And by what may be either the strange whim of a madman or the cynical shamelessness of a tyrant to slay him in the open daylight. Michelle, who, though in after time he showed a strength for her father's proud godliness and utter incapacity of understanding the noblest parts of her husband's character, seemed to have been a true wife in these early days, discovers, pampers with a woman's quick eye, sharpened by love, the crouching murderers, and with rampant promptitude urges immediate flight. Her hands led him down from the window, the horse being probably on the wall. Her ready wit dressed up one of those mysterious teraphim which appear to have had some connection with idolatry or magic, and which are strange pieces for furniture for David's house. I laid in the bed to deceive the messengers, and so gained a little more time before pursuit began. So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel to Ramah, and thus ended his life and the court. Glancing over this narrative, one or two points come prominently forth. The worth of these events to David must have laid chiefly in the abundant additions made to his experience of life, which ripened his nature and developed the new powers. The meditative life of the sheepfold is followed by the crowded court and the camp. Strenuous work, familiarity with men, constant vicissitude take the place of a placid thought of calm seclusion on tranquil days that knew no changes but the alternation of sun, the star, storm, the brightness, green pattern, the dusty passes. He learned the real world with its heat and effort, its hollow fame, and its whispering calumnies. Many illusions no doubt faded, but the light that had been shone in his solitude still burned before him for his guide, and a deeper trust in his shepherd God was rooted in his soul by all the shock of wearing fortune. The passage from the visions of youth and the solitary resolves of early and uninterrupted piety to the naked reality of a wicked world, and the stern self-control of manly godliness is ever painful and perilous. Thank God it may be made clear again, as it was by this young hero psalmist. David's calm indifference to outward circumstances affecting himself is very strikingly expressed in his conduct, partly from his poetic temperament, partly from his sweet and natural unselfishness, and chiefly from his living trust in God. He accepts whatever happens with equanimity. Equanimity, yeah. Strange word. Say it again.
Equanimity?
What that means? Let's see. Equanimity.
Calmness and composure, especially in a difficult situation.
Ah. Good. Okay. He accepts whatever happens with equanimity and makes no effort to alter it. He originates nothing. Prosperity comes unsought, dangers unfeared. He does not ask for Jonathan's love, or the people's favor, or the women's sons, or Saul's daughter. If Saul give him command, he takes it, and does his work. If Saul fling his javelin at him, he simply springs aside and let it whizzle past. If his high position is taken from him, he is quite content with the lower. If a royal alliance is offered, he accepts it. If it is withdrawn, he is not ruffled. If renewed, he is still willing. If a busy web of intrigue is woven around him, he takes no notice. If reconciliations are proposed, he cheerfully goes back to the palace. If his life is threatened, he goes home. He will not stir to escape but for the urgency of his wife. So well had he already begun to learn the worthlessness of life for trifles. So thoroughly does he practice his own precept. Fret not thyself because of evildoers. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. That is Psalm 27.
37, actually.
Almost 37, 1 to 7. Okay. This section gives also a remarkable impression of the irresistible growth of his popularity and influence. The silent energy of the divine purpose presses the fortunes onward with a motion slow and inevitable, and that of a glacier. The steadfast flow circles unchecked round or rises victorious over all hindrances. Efforts to wrong, to degrade, to kill, one and all fail. Terror and hate, suspicion and jealousy only bring him nearer the goal. A clause which comes in thrice in the course of one chapter expresses this fitted at once. In the first stage is called life, we read, David prospered, 1 Samuel 18:5. And again with increased emphasis it is told, as a result of the efforts to crush him, that he prospered in all his ways, the Lord was with him, verse 14. And yet again, in spite of Saul's having become his enemy continually, he prospered more than all the servants of Saul, verse 30. He moves onward as stars in the courses move, obeying the equable impulse of the calm and conquering will of God. The familiar scripture antithesis, which naturally found its clearest utterance the words of the last inspired writer, namely, the internal opposition of light and darkness, love and hate, life and death, is brought into sharpest relief by the juxtaposition and contrast with David and Saul. This is the key to the story. The two men are not more unalike in person than in spirit. We think of the one with his rather beautiful, changeful eyes and lithe slight form, the other gaunt and blank, his giant strength weakened, his goodly face scarred with the lightnings of his passions, and his look, so they are. And they look, so they are. The one full of joyful energy, the other devoured by gloom. The one going in and out among the people and winning universal love, the other sitting moody and self-absorbed behind his palace walls. The one bringing sweet, clear tune of trustful praise from his heart, the other shaking his huge spirit in his manners. The one ready for action and prosperous in it all, the other paralyzed, shrinking from all work, and leaving the conduct, the war to the servant whom he feared. The one conscious of the divine presence making him strong and calm, the other writhing in the grip of his evil spirit, and either fuming fairy or stiffened into torpor. What that means? See that word. Have you know that word before? A state of physical, mental inactivity, lethargy. Okay, torpor. T-O-R-P-O-R. The one steadily growing in power and favor with God and the man, the other sinking in deeper mire and wrapped about with thickening mists as he moves to his doom. The tragic pathos with these two lives, in their pitiful antagonism, is the embodiment of that awful alternative of life and death, blessing and cursing, which was the very aim for Judaism to stamp infectibly on the conscience. David's flight begins a period to which a large number of his sons are referred. We may call them the sons of the outlaw. The titles in the Psalter connect several with specific events during his persecution by Saul, and beside this, there are others which have marked characteristics in common and may therefore be regarded as belonging to the same time. The bond of the former class are found in the second book of the Psalter, Okay, tell me the number there.
That's gonna be 42 and... the first one's 42.
42?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the next one?
Next one is 72, I think.
Oh, man. How do you do that? Oh, 72. Understand now.
42 through 72.
Okay. Which has been arranged with some care. Their first 8 Karathite songs, one for Asphas, and the group of 15 Davidic. Come on, that is
51.
51 to what? 65? I don't know that, but
Possibly.
yeah, that's 65.
Yeah, 65.
Okay. Followed by 2 anonymous, then 3 more for Davids. That is
68.
68 to 70. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Followed by 1 anonymous and the well-known prayer for Solomon. Now it is worth notice that the group of 15 songs ascribed to David is as nearly as possible divided in halves, 8 having inscriptions which give a specific date, a composition, and 7 having no such detail. There's also been some attempt in arranging the songs of these 2 classes alternatively, but that has not been accurately carried out. This fact shows that it is titled that all events as old as the compilation of the second book of the Psalter are regarded as accurate then. Several points about the complete book of Psalms as we have it seem to indicate that these 2 first books were an older nucleus, which was in existence long prior to the present collection, and if so, the date of the titles must be carried back a very long way indeed, with a proportionate increase of authority. Of the 8 songs in the second book having titles with specific dates, 5, Psalm 70, 65, 66.
That's actually, it starts with 52.
Oh, there, 52,
54.
54,
56.
55, sorry. That's a 55.
The second one is 54.
No, oh, yeah, see, yeah.
And then it's 56, and then it's 57.
That's very confusing.
59,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then 56, 57,
59.
59. Oh, that's confusing.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to calculate in order to read the number, man. So,
That's what it's all about.
yeah. Assigned to the period of the Solim persecution, and as to would appear with accuracy, there is a general similarity of tune in them all, as well as considerable parallelisms for expression, phrases, and metaphors which are favorable to the hypothesis of a nearly contemporary state. They are all in one to use a phrase from another art, we may call David's earlier manner. For instance, in all the psalmists surrounded by enemies, we would spoil him up. Now give me the numbers.
50.
Verse 1 to 2.
57.
Okay. The 57, 3, verse 3. They oppresses him. Okay, we're going to bypass those things. Okay. One of their weapons is a calumny. Am I right? Calumny.
Calumny, yeah.
Colony, what that word?
The making of false and defamatory statements about someone in order to damage their reputation.
Oh, how does
Calumny.
colony? Man, that is a tongue twister there.
Yeah.
Colony, which seems from the frequent references to have much moved the psalmist. Their tongues are razors or swords. They seem to him like crouching beasts ready to spring upon harmless prey. Their lions, dogs, is conscious of nothing which he had done to provoke this storm of hatred. The strength of God is his hope. He is sure that retribution will fall upon the enemies. He vows and knows that the sons of deliverance will yet succeed those of plenty cries. Okay, you continue to read.
We also find a considerable number of psalms in the first book of the Psalter which present the same features, and may therefore probably be classed with these as belonging to the time of his exile. Such, for instance, are the 7th and 34th, which have both inscriptions referring them to this period, with others which we shall have to consider presently. The imagery of the preceding group reappears in them. His enemies are lions, dogs, bulls. Pitfalls and snares are in his path. He passionately protests his innocence, and the kindliness of his heart is to his wanton foes, whom he has helped and sorrowed over in their sickness. A reference, perhaps, to his solacing Saul and his paroxysms with the music of his harp. He dwells on retribution with vehemence, and on his own deliverance with confidence. These general characteristics accurately correspond with the circumstances of David during the years of his wanderings. The scenery and life of the desert colors and metaphors which describe his enemies as wild beasts, himself as a poor hunted creature amongst pits and snares, or as a timid bird flying to the safe crags, and God as his rock. Their strong assertions of innocence accord with the historical indications of Saul's gratuitous hatred, and appear to distinguish the Psalms of this period from those of Absalom's revolt, in which the remembrance of his great sin was too deep to permit of any such claims. In like manner, the prophecies of the enemy's destruction are too triumphant to suit that later time of exile, when the father's heart yearned with misplaced tenderness over his worthless son, and nearly broke with unkingly sorrow for the rebel's death. Their confidence in God, too, has in it a ring of joyousness in peril which corresponds with the buoyant faith and went with him through all the desperate adventures and hair-breadth escapes from the Sauline persecution. If then we
I think
may,
it's Sauline.
Sauline, yeah.
Sorry.
If then we may, with some confidence, read these psalms in connection with that period, what a noble portraiture of a brave, devout soul looks out upon us from them. We see him in the first flush of his manhood, somewhere about 25 and 20 years old, fronting perils of which he is fully conscious, with calm strength and an enthusiasm of trust that lifts his spirit above them all, into a region of fellowship with God which no tumult can invade, and which no remembrance of black transgression troubled and stained. His harp is his solace in his wanderings, and while plaintive notes are flung from its strings, as is needful for the deepest harmonies of praise here, every wailing tone melts into clear-ringing notes of glad defiance in the God of his mercy. Distinct references to the specific events of his wanderings are undoubtedly rare in them, though even these are more obvious than has been sometimes carelessly assumed. Their infrequency and comparative vagueness has been alleged against the accuracy of the inscriptions which allocate certain psalms to particular occasions. But in so far as it is true that these allusions are rare and inexact, the fact is surely rather in favor of than against the correctness of the titles.
The fact is surely rather in favor of
than against the correctness of the titles.
Yeah.
For if these are not suggested by obvious references in the Psalms to which they are affixed, by what can they have been suggested but by a tradition considerably older than the compilation of the Psalter?
Compilation, I think. Whatever the word.
Compilation, yeah.
Compilation, okay. Mm-hmm.
Besides, the analogy of all other poetry would lead us to expect precisely what we find in these psalms: general and not detailed allusions to the writer's circumstances. The poetic imagination does not reproduce the bald prosaic facts which have set it in motion, but the echo of them broken up and etherealized. It broods over them till life stirs, and the winged creature bursts from them to sing and soar. If we accept the title as accurate, the 59th Psalm is the first of these songs of the outlaw.
Let's read that then.
Okay.
159, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 59. There you go. Oh, that's a long one. I'm going to read this one. Okay. So
Okay.
Psalm 59 for the director music. To the tune of Do Not Destroy David, a Miktam, when Saul had sent men to watch David's house in order to kill him. Deliver me from my enemies, O God. Protect me from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from evildoers, and save me from bloodthirsty man. See how they lie in wait for me. Fierce men conspire against me. For no offense or sin of mine, O Lord. I have done no wrong, yet they are ready to attack me. Arise to help me. Look on my plight. O Lord God Almighty, the God of Israel, rouse yourself to punish all the nations. Show no mercy to wicked traitors. Return the evening, snoring like dogs, and prowl about the city. See what they spew from their mouth. They spew out swords from the lips, and they say, who can hear us? But you, O Lord, laugh at them. You scoff at all those nations. O my strength, I watch for you. You, O God, are my fortress, my loving God. God will go before me and will let me gloat over those who slander me. But do not kill them, O Lord, our shield. O my people will forget. In your mind, make them wander about and bring them down. For the sin their mouth is, for the words their lips, let them be caught in the pride. For the curses, the lie, the utter, consume them in your wrath, consume them till they are no more. Then it will be known to the end of the earth, and God rules over Jacob. They turn the evening, snaring like dogs, prowl about the city. They wander about for food or haul if not satisfied. But I will sing of your strength. In the morning I will sing of your love. For you are my fortress, my refuge in time of trouble. O my strength, I sing praise to you. You, O God, are my fortress, my loving God. Excuse me. Wow, what a mighty psalm. Go ahead.
We're at...
If we accept the title as accurate, the 59th Psalm is the first of the songs of the outlaw.
I can't... I'm not on my page. It's interesting.
Okay. Take a little bit of time.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
We're just going to start. I guess this might be a little behind. If it's at 4, if these are not suggested by obvious references in the Psalms to which they are affixed, by what can they have been suggested but by a tradition considerably older than the compilation of the Psalter? Besides, the analogy of all other poetry would lead us to expect precisely what we find in these Psalms, general and not detailed allusions to the writer's circumstances. The poetic imagination does not reproduce the bald prosaic facts.
You're much earlier, so you need to go back. Go forward.
That's
for
weird.
the 1, 2, or even 3.
Oh,
pages.
here it is, yeah.
There you go.
It refers to the time when Saul sent and they watched the house to kill him. Those critics who reject this date, which they do on very weak grounds, lose themselves in a chaos of assumptions as to the occasion of the psalm. The Chaldean invasion the assaults of the time of Nehemiah, and the era of the Maccabees are alleged with equal confidence and equal groundlessness. We believe that it is most advisable to adhere to the title and most scientific to ignore these hypotheses built on nothing. It is a devotional and poetic commentary on the story in Samuel. There we get the bare facts of the assassins prowling by night round David's house, of Michal's warning, and of her ready-witted trick to gain time.
I think called Michelle, so that's how it's just...
Well, I just do it the way my dad said it.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just how
Okay.
he's been saying it, so... You want me to call Michelle?
It's okay, yeah.
Okay. For a ready-witted trick to gain time, and of his hasty flight to Samuel at Ramah. In the narrative, David is, as usual at this period, passive and silent, but when we turn to the psalm, we learn the tone of his mind, and the peril bursts upon him, and all the vulgar craft and fear fades from before his lofty enthusiasm of faith. The psalm begins abruptly with a passionate cry for help, which is repeated 4 times, thus bringing most vividly before us the extremity of the danger and the persistency of the suppliant's trust. The peculiar tenderness and closeness of his relation to his heavenly friend, which is so characteristic of David's psalms, and which they... My God. The enemies are painted in words which accurately correspond with the history, and which by their variety reveal how formidable they were to the psalmist. They lie in wait, literally weave plots for my life. They are workers of iniquity, men of blood, insolent or violent, mighty in the English version. He asserts his innocence, as ever in these saline psalms, and appeals to God in confirmation. Not for my transgressions, nor for my sins, O Lord. He sees these eager tools of royal malice hurrying to their congenial work. Congenial. They run and prepare themselves. And then, rising high above all encompassing evils, he grasps at the throne of God in a cry, which gains additional force when we remember that the would-be murderers compass his house in the night.
You're doing real well. This is old English, man. So, yeah, it's hard to break the sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
At least with the scarlet, it's wordy, very wordy. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awake to meet me, and behold, as if he had said, in the darkness do thou see, at midnight sleep not thou. The prayer is continued in words which heap together with unwonted abundance the divine names.
Today let's change that the shorten, with emperor is continued with abundance divine names. That's it. So, but he used so many expressions, right? So, anyway, just talking. So.
Yeah, it's true.
That's how I'm gonna write. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In each of which lie an appeal to God and a pillar of faith. As Jehovah, the self-existent fountain of timeless being, as the God of hosts, the commander of all the embattled powers of the universe, whether they be spiritual or material, as the God of Israel, who calls that people his, and has become theirs, he stirs up the strength of God to awake to visit all the heathen, a prayer which has been supposed to compel...
NIV translated as people, so all the heathen, evidently speaking, the people don't believe in God, right?
Yeah.
So it's therefore the translation is more suited to the notes to the song in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not the people, it's the people who don't worship God, which is so hired, like a merchant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony is a godless king, so because he don't necessarily wrap himself around with people that are devoted to God, right? Care about God. So it's a military regime in a sense. So the heathen So David stand out as a man fears God, reverend God, knows God, and right, especially in Saul's court. Samuel is not wrong. The priesthood is distant, and right. So, and David was a different brand, So almost so. Go ahead. Sorry, just telling you. So
Yeah.
heathen or unbelievers, whatever, and right. So the people don't have reverence for God is a better translated than the nations as I rendered it. So I was going to have notes there. So go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. A weekend to visit all the heathen. That's where we left. So.
A prayer which has been supposed to compel the reference of the whole psalm to the assaults of Gentile nations, but which may be taken as an anticipation on David's lips of the truth that they are not all Israel which are of Israel. After a terrible petition, be not merciful to any secret plotters of evil. There is a pause, Selah, to be filled, as if it would appear by some chords on the harp, or the blare of the trumpets. Thus,
you might think that's strange. Remember, a servant of Saul was actually Amalekites who later on cut off his head. Remember that? So go ahead.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thus giving time to dwell on the previous petitions. But still the thought of the foe haunts him, and he falls again to the lower level of painting their assembling around his house, and their whispers as they take their stand. It would appear that the watch had been kept up for more than one night. How he flings his growing scorn of them into the sarcastic words. They return at the evening. They growl like a dog and compass the city, or go their rounds in the city. One sees them stealing through the darkness, like the troops of vicious curs that infest eastern cities, and hears their smothered threatenings as they crouch in the shadow of the unlightened streets. Then growing bolder as the night deepens and sleep falls on the silent houses, behold, they pour out with their mouth, swords are in their lips. For who hears? In magnificent contrast with these skulking murderers, fancying themselves unseen and unheard, David's faith rends the heaven, and, with a daring image which is copied in a much later psalm, 2 verse 4, shows God gazing on them with divine scorn, which breaks in laughter and mockery. A brief verse, which recurs at the end of the psalm, closes the first portion of the psalm with a calm expression of untroubled trust, in beautiful contrast with the peril and tumult of the soul, out of which it rises steadfast and ethereal, like a rainbow spanning a cataract. A slight terror appears to have crept into the Hebrew text, which can be easily corrected from the parallel verse at the end, and then the quiet, confident words are, "My strength, upon thee will I wait, for God is my fortress." The second portion is an intensification of the first, pouring out a terrible prayer for exemplary retribution on his enemies, asking that no speedy destruction may befall them, but that God would first of all make them reel by the blow of his might, would then fling them prostrate, would make their pride in fierce words a net to snare them, and then at last would bring them to nothing in the hot flames of his wrath, that the world may know that he is king. The picture of the prowling dogs recurs with a deepened scorn and firmer confidence that they will hunt for their prey in vain. And they return at evening. They growl like a dog, and encompass the city. They prowl about for food. If, or since, they are not satisfied, they spend the night in the search. There is almost a smile on his face as he thinks of their hunting about for him, like hungry hounds snuffing for their meal in the kennels, and growling now in disappointment, while he is safe beyond their reach. And the psalm ends with a glad burst of confidence, and a vow of praise very characteristic on his lips. But I will sing thy power, and shout aloud in the morning, thy mercy. For thou hast been a fortress for me, and a refuge in the day of my trouble. My strength, unto thee will I harp, for God is my fortress, the God of my mercy. Thrice he repeats the vow of praise. His harp was his companion in his flight, and even in the midst of peril the poet's nature appears, which regards all life as materials for song. And the devout spirit appears, which regards all trial as occasions for praise. He has calmed his own spirit, as he had done Saul's, by his song, and by prayer has swung himself clear above fightings and fears. The refrain, which occurs twice in the psalm, witnesses to the growth of his faith even while he sings. At first he could only say in patient expectance, My strength, I will wait upon thee, for God is my fortress. But at the end his mood is higher. His soul has caught fire as it revolves, and his last words are a triumphant amplification of his earlier trust. My strength, unto thee will I sing with the harp, for God is my fortress, the God of my mercy.
That's indeed for today. Perfect time.